Morning, class. Right. Within leadership in sport today, and what we're covering at the moment is we're going to start on qualities. Now, can anyone tell me the knowledge of rules and laws, why that's good for a leader to have as a quality?
It's important that coaches have good knowledge of rules and laws, because if they didn't, then they couldn't educate their players in a way in which they could win. If a coach has a poor understanding of the rules and laws and they don't know that what they can and cannot say, and they also don't know the circumstances of doing so, so it leaves them and their players in a vulnerable situation.
Good, yeah.
I've got a football-based example of Harry Redknapp, who was Spurs manager at the time, criticising the referee's decision and being quite aggressive towards the decisions that he made, and saying things that he wasn't really allowed to say. Harry Redknapp got a fine for his behaviour, with the FA keeping a close eye on him for the near future. It looked both bad on him and the club, so it was just bad, really.
Right, yeah, so can anyone tell me about why the knowledge of sports skills would be good for a leader to have?
Yeah, if a coach of a sporting team knows more than just the rules and regulations of that sport, and they know their team's strengths and weaknesses, for example, how good they are at tactics and skills, then they can link these skills to a certain situation in sport. A good leader in a sport like basketball will be someone who can call the right plays when the teams need them. So, for example, if they're behind, put a certain tactic together, and then this will play to their team's strengths and the opposition's weaknesses. For example, in basketball, this coach understands the strengths and weaknesses of his team's players and uses this to pick the role between Steve Nash and the other player. I don't know his name, I can't really read it. Therefore, if this coach understands where his team can perform in the best situation, they will get their best out of his team. But on the other hand, if his team doesn't understand his best players' positions, then his team won't perform as well as what they can and may not win.
The pick and roll. It's the foundation of most NBA offenses, but few teams, if any, run it better than the Phoenix Suns. It all starts with Steve Nash and Amari Stoudemire, two guys whose skills are perfectly suited to executing great pick and roll sets. What are those skills specifically? For Nash, it's his ball handling and ability to pass in traffic. Meanwhile, Stoudemire is incredibly agile, has soft hands, and is one of the game's most explosive finishers. The majority of the Suns' pick and rolls occur with Nash and Stoudemire in the middle of the floor. On this possession, Nash is able to work his way into the paint and launch one of those off-balance leaners with just the right touch. Now, here's Amari at work on the roll. He slips the screen and builds up a head of steam. Then Nash hits him on the move with a bounce pass between the two defenders.
So can anyone tell me now about why a coach needs to understand the physical needs?
Yeah, I think Jordan's got that. I think I know, yeah. It is, for example, if a sprinter's just come back from injury, the coach won't make them go straight into sprinting again. They'll slowly let their athlete progress through training and let their bodies adjust to running and movement again. By doing this, the coaches are helping their athlete gradually get back into training, as they will know how far to push the runner when he will need the intensity of the training session to increase. The positives of this is that the coach will know how far they can push the competitor, like I just said, without them getting injured or fatigued. And it will also show the coach knows how to get the best out of their athlete and can push them to their full potential. Although on the other hand, if the coach doesn't know the athlete's physical needs, then the coach may push their athlete too far by either giving them too much to do or having the intensity of the training session too high, making it difficult for the sprinter. They might not even push them at all, meaning their athlete will never get better. This could eventually lead to injuries or sprinter getting fatigued or unsuccessful.
That's right,
Yeah.
Right, now can anyone tell me why a leader needs to be able to understand physiological needs of the participant?
Yeah, participating in sport and physical activity is much about developing the mind as the body. Research has shown that participating in sport can potentially raise your mood and improve mental health. It is important for leaders to understand the psychological needs of their participants, as it could be the difference of getting the best out of your players. Each sports leader will deliver sessions to different groups, each with their own sets of needs and motivations. The very best sports leaders are often the ones who best understand their participants' needs and motivations. An example of this could be when a participant is feeling down. It is up to the leader to use the correct coaching style in order to get a good performance out of his participant. If a leader uses the wrong coaching style, it is likely that the participant will perform even worse. which could put the whole team down, which could create a bad atmosphere. The former England team coach Andy Flower was someone who was very good at understanding the psychological needs of his players. When he first took over the England cricket team, it was in a small crisis and struggling to win games. The team's participants were feeling down, and Andy Flower was able to give them the winning mentality of the team, and they were able to gain back-to-back Ashes against Australia.
Yeah, I mean that was an interesting time back at the start of the year, but we did some good things out in the West Indies in bonding the team together, and then we started this season well. And we always thought we were in with a chance. Of course we were underdogs, you know. The Aussie team were the #1 side in the world, and they've been a great side for a long time. So we knew we were underdogs, but we also knew that we had a chance, and
good, that's good for qualities, and we'll move on to characteristics now. Yeah, characteristics, we've got 6 on board that I want you to go through now, so can anyone tell me about why being approachable is an important characteristic for a leader to have?
Yeah, in many sports, people come in faced with problems. This can become a lonely place for these athletes. For a leader or coach to become more approachable, for example, easy to talk to, and always be available to put his arm around his client or team and help them through situations, they can gain respect between the two, which will want them to make them want to perform more. An example of this was when Frank Lampard's mother passed away, and the manager stepped in so I can get through a tough situation. Me and you were looking at the manager stepped in and helped him through these tough times, and Frank said he was a solid figure. This motivated Frank to perform better, and arguably perform better than he ever had after this performance. If Frank didn't get his support, he could have gone into depression and performed a lot worse. And this could have been a long recovery for him to get back to where he were before, not just with his performances, but in everyday life.
Spot on that one. Now can anyone tell me about why being goal focused is an important characteristic to have for a leader?
To be goal focused, it's important because you have to work everything out of your life and be obstruction, and you get on with what you want to achieve. It's both good and a bad thing to be goal focused due to outcomes. For example, if you set your mind on something and you want to achieve it and willing to give anything to do so, then you can potentially let a lot of people in your life and push them away. But on the other hand, it's a good thing to be goal focused because you will achieve great things and have a successful life and career. I've got a video and example, and it's just an overall video of sport and life in general, why it's important to be goal focused and that you should never let anyone stand in your way once you've set your mind to something, because it can jeopardise your career and your relationship with others, so you need to get on with it.
Because when you cheat, when you don't try, the only person you cheat is yourself.
Because what you do and what you say are 2 completely different things, aren't they?
Yeah, you've got to, if you can talk the talk, the next best thing is walking the walk. And
You've got to go for it because you're going to get that.
exactly. Me and Norbury.
Exactly. Right, so tell me why being forgiving is a good characteristic for a leader.
Yeah, I can. Being forgiving when you're a leader is good because if you get upset with players when they make mistakes or do something wrong in your training or a game, you'll be able to make up with them and build up your rapport again after you've broken down with the argument. So you can sort it out what's going on with them. Being forgiving, it helps to be a forgiving leader. If you don't take things personal and don't hold grudges. But the negatives of not being forgiving is that if someone does something wrong, then you'll not be able to make up with them, break down team dynamics and how the players feel about you in other ways, such as being approachable. I've got an example here of like when Mancini said Tevez will never play for Man City again after he refused to come off bench against Bayern in the Champions League.
If one player earns a lot of money, play for Manchester City in a Champions League, he has this behavior, for me, he can play. Never.
You can never play?
No. If we want to improve like a team, like club, like a squad, Carlo can play with us. With me, no. He finished.
Yeah, anyone can they talk to me about patience and why that's an important characteristic to have?
Yeah, I can. This character has been described as someone who can overlook provocation, annoyance, misfortune, pain, without complaint, irritation or the like. It is vital for a sports leader to have patience and to have a calm personnel and never show anger towards their participants. This should also endeavour to develop every participant. This may include differentiating activities as appropriate and showing participants with less ability to achieve their goal within the session. The best sports leaders don't rush their sports sessions. They ensure they cover every little detail. For example, in basketball, a good coach will make sure everyone knows their job role within the match. It is an important characteristic because it has many potential benefits. They include time to reflect. Like for a sports leader to have time to reflect means they can reflect on certain situations and goals. They have the ability to see details, as it allows leaders to see the whole picture rather than rushing and cutting corners. One great leader who had patience was Winston Churchill. This was shown in the war, as he had to come through some tough times but remain resilient and patient. A sporting example of someone who has patience is Sir Alex Ferguson. In the first few years of his long reign, he wasn't able to achieve any success and was put under tough pressure by the board. Because of his patience, he was able to reflect on his team tactics and cope with the pressure, which resulted in success throughout the rest of his career. And there's a video as well.
They've been desperate for it since May last year, when that trophy ended up across the city. Now it's theirs again. It's been reclaimed. And this does mark the end of an all-conquering era. Here come the joint captains, if you like, Patrice Evra, who's worn the armband for much of the season, and Nemanja Vidic. For the 13th time in the Ferguson years, for the 20th time in the club's history, words that for a generation or more have just gone together. Manchester United, champions!
Now, can anyone talk to me about why being committed is an important characteristic to have?
Yeah, I can.
Go on then, John, knock it out.
Cheers, pal. A great example of a sporting leader with commitment would be a boxing coach. A boxing coach needs to have great commitment, as without it, his fighter won't succeed. A coach's commitment reflects off of their fighter, as a coach makes sure the fighter never gives up and makes sure that they are training hard and competing at the best of their ability. Are you alright? A leader needs to be committed, as this is how they show they believe in what they are leading, and also shows that they really want to succeed. As a leader's commitment will thrive them to succeed at anything they do. Commitment also comes with trust, so when a coach has got a good commitment level with their athlete, it also shows how much trust they have with one another. The negative factor of commitment is that if a coach doesn't have any, then you will be able to see this very clearly through his fighter, as the fighter may not fight to their full potential as the coach hasn't helped them enough. The fighter will also seem very relaxed and maybe arrogant, as their coach hasn't been hard on them or pushed them to reach their goals. This will lead to the boxer being unsuccessful. Although commitment is important, the fighter will need time to rest and eat and sleep, meaning that waking them up after 2 hours sleep to train isn't sensible, as they will be tired and this will affect their performance and sleeping patterns. To succeed, the fighter will need good sleep, diet and rest.
Let me tell you something you already know. The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are, it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is gonna hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done. Now, if you know what you're worth, now go out and get what you're worth. But you gotta be willing to take the hits and not pointing fingers saying you ain't where you wanna be because of him or her or anybody. Cowards do that, and that ain't you. You're better than that. I'm always gonna love you no matter what. No matter what happens. You're my son, you're my blood. You're the best thing in my life. But until you start believing in yourself, you ain't gonna have a life.
Now, does anyone understand why being persistent is a good characteristic for a leader? No, you got it?
No.
I'll sort of guide you through this one. Yeah, but I think it's the ability or motivation to get back up after any sort of setback you have. It's not letting any negative instances bring you down. It's something that's very important in most sports, like team sports, where you've got a season to go through. Because if you're going through a full season, it's not going to be all happy all the time. There's going to be lots of ups and downs that you're going to have to come through. And it's
roller coaster ride, isn't it?
Well, exactly. You've got it nailed on the head there, mate. But with most teams, you can see, or athletes even, which ones are sort of able to be persistent and which aren't. You can see that in teams. It's obvious with you need leaders within a team. You don't just need the managers. You need captains and experienced players to sort of step up to the plate and get the team through it. Because an example of a team that wasn't really persistent, I'm sure you can't remember this, is a few years back in the Premier League when Newcastle were 4-0 down at half-time home to Arsenal.
Arsenal, yeah.
Yeah.
And who scored that world in?
We'll come on to that in a moment, yeah. Right. After half-time, Newcastle got a goal back, didn't they? And instead of Arsenal playing the way they did in the first half, which would have been persistent, would have been carried on with the way they were playing. After Newcastle got a goal back,
just like Germany-Brazil final.
Yeah. As soon as they conceded a goal,
carried on, didn't they?
As soon as they conceded a goal, Arsenal backed off, tried to defend the lead that they had. When really what they should have been doing is playing the way they did in the first half, be persistent with their tactics, keep moving forward with it. They would have got a few more goals or at least kept it to 4-1. What actually happened was the game finished 4-4. They sort of changed the tactics, they weren't being very persistent with what they were doing. Whereas what I found a contrast with is, I'm sure you lads are a bit too young to remember this, but the 1999 Champions League final, I'm sure you've all seen videos of it, when Manchester United Bayern Munich and Barcelona, and Manchester United didn't play well all game, but they carried on playing with those tactics. They had a load of players out, but Ferguson made sure that they were going to keep going to the very end, like they got well renowned for. And it weren't until the 90th minute where I think Sheringham scored, and then Solskjaer scored in the same minute. They kept going. They were very persistent. They kept going, and they ended up winning Champions League. And it just sort of shown really that what persistence can really do for a team.
Big decision.
It's Basler. Oh, deflected and in. And Manchester United, as they've done time and time again on this European run, have made it hard for themselves. 3 added minutes. Can Manchester United score? They always score.
The big goalie's coming up.
Peter Schmeichel is forward.
Can he score another in Europe? He's got one in Europe already.
Beckham. In towards Schmeichel. It's comfort to York. Cleared. Giggs with a shot. Sheringham! Name on the trophy. Teddy Sheringham has equalised for Manchester United. They are still in the European Cup. Is this their moment? Beckham into Sheringham, and Solskjaer has won it! Manchester United have reached the promised land. The 2 substitutes have scored the 2 goals in stoppage time, and nobody will ever win a European Cup final more dramatically than this. Champions of Europe, champions of England, winners of the FA Cup, everything their hearts desire.
So now we're going to roles of leadership. So can anyone tell me about how being a good role model is important for a leader?
It's important that a leader is a good role model, so that your peers look up to you and have great respect and listen to what you've got to say and take it in and work on the aspects what you tell them to work on. It's very important to be a role model as a leader, so that the people you lead aspire to be like you and want to be as successful as you. A great example of this is Michael Jordan, because he's considered the best NBA player of all time, and players and fans look up to him as an iconic figure and the face of the game.
So, who can tell me why being a good teacher would be a good important role for being a good leader?
Yeah, I can. A good sports leader must be able to teach participants so they can develop as a sports performer. Teachers will often teach beginners basic techniques and skills. For example, in rugby, beginners will be taught tag rugby and learn how to use movement, pass the ball, basic tackles and interceptions. And an example of a sports leader who is good at teaching is Andy Murray's former coach, Ivan Lendl. There are a number of reasons for this, which include being able to train sessions what are interesting to increase Andy's motivation, being able to see improvements in his performances, and being able to build on his previous experience, which is learned with former coaches, and he went to win on 2 major titles with him as well. But not all sports leaders have the ability to teach correct teaching styles, all the time. And this is often shown in the amount of coaches that get sacked in sport, especially football. It is vital that a teacher uses the correct styles, as if they don't, they can end up giving participants bad habits which could potentially stay with them for the rest of their career. An example is Roman Grosjean in F1. Grosjean has been heavily criticised in recent times for split-second recklessness, as he will often pull stupid moves and cause crashes. This has been a reoccurring theme which leads me to believe he has not been correctly taught when he was younger by his teachers. Yeah, that's it.
You could tell me about why the role of being a good guardian would be important for a leader.
Guardian, yeah, I can tell you what guardian. A guardian is someone who will look out for someone and wants them to do well. They will also help them along the way. A great leader with a guardian in sport would be Harry Redknapp, as he gives a lot of opportunities to up-and-coming young players at the clubs. In the video you're about to see Harry Redknapp is asked why he plays a 17-year-old boy named Frank Lampard, while he saw two players who the journalists thought were better. Redknapp being the leader, he strikes back at a journalist defending Frank Lampard, saying he will do great things and go right to the top. Harry stood by his player, making him a great guardian, as well as his instinct and defending not only his beliefs but the player and his team. By being a good guardian, you have to look after up-and-coming players in your team and the rest of your squad to make sure everyone is playing well and to make sure everyone is feeling fine mentally and both physically. By doing this, the leader is looking after their athletes or athlete and wants to make sure that they succeed. If a leader isn't a good guardian, then it means that they don't believe in their beliefs, team or player, as they haven't stuck up for them and they aren't willing to protect them. Then they'll get criticised. This may also damage the confidence of players and the fans and affect the team or the athlete's form.
I'd like to ask Gary if he thinks like the publicity he's given young Frank here warrants it. Because personally, I don't think he's quite good enough yet. And I also think that in the last couple of years, you've let some good midfielders go for peanuts, like Matt Holland and Scott Cannon.
Well, no, they definitely wasn't good enough. He is good enough, and he definitely will be good enough. I let Scott Cannon go. He was a good kid and worked very hard. He's gone to Brentford. He can't get in Brentford's team. He's 21 years of age. I let him go because young Frank's 17, 18 and is miles in front of him.
Well, that ain't really true.
That is true. You know, that's my opinion, and that's what I get paid to. I get paid to make judgments on players. It's not. No, if you look very carefully, I don't think he's been in too regular. Well, that's your opinion. You know, again, it's a game of opinions. And you've got a right to your opinion, but I've also got a right to my opinion. You know, and my opinion, obviously, I keep the players I want to keep. Young Matt Holland, yeah, I think he may bounce back and maybe first division, and he's a decent player. And young Scotty Cannon's a decent player, don't get me wrong. He's a decent young player. We offered him a 2-year contract, and he turned it down. He didn't want to stay here. But, no, I tell you now, you know, you can sit in front of all these people. I tell you, without any shadow of a doubt, there will be no comparison with what Frank Lampard will achieve in football and what Scotty Cannon will achieve in football.
But you'll give him the opportunity.
I don't give him the opportunity. You know, there is no favouritism. In fact, I'm probably holding him back more because I tell you what.
Frank at Arsenal, and he clearly wasn't ready to play.
Well, that's your, yeah. I don't think he did badly at Arsenal. I think he came into the side, and I felt.
Hang on, just a moment, one at a time.
I thought the kid came into the side and did well, you know. But I'm telling you now, and I may be now, I didn't want to say this in front of him, but he will go right to the very top. Right to the very top.
Here's Jordan. Now, tell me about why being a trainer is an important role for a leader.
Yeah, I can. A trainer will cover lots of areas in their sessions. For example, they will make the sessions up not to let players become bored by doing the same drill every time. Because if they didn't change the drills, then players would become demotivated, resulting in low performance level. If the sessions are enjoyable and different every time, then the people will always turn up. For example, in Sunday League, squad will turn up every time, full players. And this will make them try their hardest and want to be involved in every session. If the coach has bad training sessions, again, like in Sunday League, the whole team might not turn up because they might have other priorities. And then they'll not be as well prepared, therefore the team and players will be less motivated and excited for the session, resulting in lower work rate.
Hi, Chris Machine here, coming to you with another fitness tip of the week. I'm here today to talk to you about sprint interval training. Sprint interval training is probably one of my favorite things to do. It's a really challenging way to get your heart rate up. If you really want to try high intensity intervals, try adding sprint training to it. I have Aaron here with me today. He's going to help us with some of the exercises, so let's go and get started. All right, so we're working on a wood weight treadmill today. These are one of my favorite treadmills to work on. We're gonna set it to dynamic mode, and what that means is they're actually gonna turn the belt off so it's disengaged. Aaron's gonna actually have to push his feet down to generate the belt speed, okay? So what we're gonna do today is I'm gonna have him do a 10-second interval. He's gonna go 10 seconds as hard as he can, and then he's gonna go back down for 10 seconds of recovery. All right, here we go. First one, 3, 2, 1, and drive. Nice high knees here, looking for a lot of speed, a lot of dynamic movement. 3, 2, 1, and rest. Okay, you want to catch your breath right here. This is your chance to recover. Again, 10 seconds of recovery. 5, 4, 3, number 2, ready, go.
Right, nice. Now, they don't know what the role of being a good organiser will be for a leader. Yeah. No? Right, well, what I've got is, yeah, I've got a little things to guys do this. It's key for a leader to be successful. Being organised means that the leader would always have a task for himself or theirself and all the people they're looking after, the athletes, staff, and other members that they sort of, take care of. And they'd always allow everyone else to know how they're going to achieve them, so everything's going to get done. They're always going to have little time frames of when things are to be done. They're also going to, they've got their own different teams, they'll set them away for different tasks. And so they can set other people away, have little groups, and then it'll come collectively as a team goal. An example I've got here is when Southampton first signed Dejan Lovren. He's at the back, he's their leader in the defence, in the clip I'm about to show you. He's showing them, the defender away at Manchester United, he's showing them when to come out, when to drop deep, and sort of organising the defence in a way that makes them really difficult to break down. Manchester United just can't find the way to do it. Because if he weren't there, if he weren't being the organiser in the defence, then the rest of the team, they wouldn't know how to defend, where to go, different situations, and they'd be running around like headless chickens. They wouldn't have a clue what to do. Right now, can anyone talk to me about motivation and why that's an important characteristic for a leader to have?
Being a motivational leader, it'll help players keep in high spirits, and if they're in a bad place or team's not performing very well. It'll help players' confidence as well when they're out on pitch, because they know that someone believes in them and that someone thinks that they can do well, so that'll help them with confidence, and they'll start believing it as well. But there is negatives of not being motivational. Players could feel like managers not impressed with them or interested in how they're performing, so they might not put 100% in.
Have you got an example of a motivational coach?
Yeah, Coach Brooks, who were the coach of the 1980s gold medal Olympic hockey team for the USA, and they were in final against Russia, and Russia were favourites to win. And Brooks' team went out and upset them with a huge score.
Great moments are born from great opportunity. And that's what you have here tonight, boys. That's what you've earned here tonight. One game. If we played them 10 times, they might win 9. But not this game. Not tonight. Tonight, we skate with them. Tonight, we stay with them. And we shut them down because we can. Tonight, we are the greatest hockey team in the world. You were born to be hockey players. Every one of you. And you were meant to be here tonight. This is your time. Their time is done. It's over. I'm sick and tired of hearing about what a great hockey team the Soviets have. Screw them. This is your time. Now go out there and take it.
School of right now. You know when I hold you, you won't be alone. As long as I'm here, as long as you love me, give me that old school of right now. As long as I'm here, as long as you love me, give me that old school of right now. Whoa. Give me that late 80s, early 90s, old school. Feeling like my second album, so cool. Chirac summer looking so cruel. Looked shorty in the eye, told me it was no rules. Went to speak but was like never mind. Let my mind just sneak back to a better time when I was his age. And if he's ever mine, thinking he would only think back to this and never find better times to think back to when it comes.